married couple lives in a secluded house deep in the forest. They are preparing to visit family. The husband, Jack, is a former top member of the American Special Forces. His wife, who is heavily pregnant, calmly prepares their belongings while awaiting the birth of their first child. Soon after, the sheriff arrives. He asks about the plan to sell the house to a man named Bastian. Jack firmly refuses, making it clear he never intended to sell.
I was hoping you've been thinking about the offer.
We haven't had a chance to decide.
You should take the offer.
We're thinking about it.
From their conversation, it becomes clear that Bastian has been trying for months to buy the house, but Jack has rejected every offer. Jack knows he cannot surrender his home, no matter the cost. This is stand your ground. That night, Jack and his wife visit their old friend Joe and his wife for dinner. During the meal, Joe notices Jack's unease and asks what is wrong. Jack admits that he fears Bastian will use any means necessary to seize the house, since Bastian is the biggest mafia boss in the region. Joe, also a former Special Forces soldier, tries to reassure him, promising to help if needed. After dinner, Jack and his wife say their goodbyes and return home. When they arrive, Jack asks his wife to go inside first while he unloads the car. At that moment, their neighbor Earl approaches. Earl asks if Jack has just arrived, then warns him that about 20 minutes earlier he saw 3 men enter the house. At first, Jack dismisses the warning, thinking Earl has been drinking again. But Earl insists he is telling the truth. He warns that the men might return and urges Jack to stay alert, especially for the safety of his pregnant wife. Taking the warning seriously, Jack rushes into the house. The moment he enters, he is ambushed by unknown men and knocked unconscious. Meanwhile, his wife is held captive by 3 men claiming to be Bastian's messengers. They declare that Bastian has long wanted the house, and after repeated refusals, he has chosen to take it by force. Jack's wife pleads for peace, offering to give up the house in exchange for their family's safety. But Bastian's orders are ruthless, and in the end, she is killed while carrying their child. Believing Jack is dead as well, the 3 men leave. Moments later, Jack regains consciousness. He is devastated by his wife's condition, but his grief quickly hardens into rage, and he rushes outside to confront the attackers still near the house. Jack manages to kill one of them, but the other 2 escape in a car. Soon after, police and medics arrive, alerted earlier by Earl. Amid the chaos, Jack sinks into sorrow, unable to accept the tragedy that has struck him. The next day, Jack is summoned for interrogation by the sheriff. After hearing the full story, the sheriff apologizes, yet explains that Jack may still face punishment under the law. Jack insists he acted only to protect his family, but the sheriff clarifies that lethal force is only permitted in self-defense inside the home. Since Jack killed outside, his actions are considered retaliation, not self-defense. The sheriff ends the session by saying the final decision rests with the judge and advises Jack to pray for leniency. Meanwhile, Bastian orders his son Leon to seize Jack's house and turn it into a factory for illegal goods. Leon hesitates, worried that Jack is still alive and may seek revenge. Bastian assures him there is no risk, since he already controls the judge handling the trial. Hearing this, Leon finally agrees to move forward. Back in the interrogation room, the sheriff shows sympathy but stresses that he has no authority to influence the verdict. During their talk, he asks why Jack was dishonorably discharged from the Special Forces. Jack explains that during a mission in Afghanistan, he disobeyed orders to save 2 children. The mission went wrong, and one of his comrades was killed. Because of that incident, he was dishonorably discharged. A few days later, Jack faces trial. As Bastian planned, the bribed judge declares Jack guilty and sentences him to 6 years in prison. Jack remains silent, though inside he vows to one day take revenge on Bastian. Not long after the trial, Bastian's right-hand man Charles reports that Jack has officially been sentenced. Even so, Bastian is not satisfied. He demands a harsher punishment, insisting Jack should be sentenced to life in prison so he never walks free again. 6 years later, Jack is released from prison. Joe waits at the gate and is surprised to see Jack still fit, even stronger than before. Jack explains that during his time inside, he trained non-stop with one purpose: to take revenge on Bastian. Joe only smiles and drives him home. Back home, Jack breaks down as memories of his wife and unborn child overwhelm him. Soon after, he visits Earl to ask about recent events. Earl tells him the house has been turned into a factory for illegal goods, now run by Leon, Bastian's son. Jack asks about Leon's movements. Earl explains that Leon often spends time at a nightclub with his associate Derek, one of the men who escaped 6 years earlier. Hearing this, Jack thanks him and swears to hunt down Leon and Derek that same night. That evening, Jack heads to the nightclub. He enters quietly, orders a glass of water, and sits in a corner booth. Before long, a large man named Benny arrives with several companions. He orders Jack to leave, saying the seat is reserved for Leon. From this, Jack realizes Benny works for Leon. Pretending to comply, he vacates the seat. Moments later, Benny goes outside to his car to retrieve a forgotten phone. As he opens the door, Jack is waiting inside. He ambushes Benny, knocks him unconscious, and drags him to another location for interrogation. Before starting, Jack calls Joe to inform him of the plan. Joe offers to help if needed. Afterward, Jack visits a weapons warehouse to gather supplies. Then returns with Benny still unconscious in the car. When Benny wakes up, Jack forces him to reveal Leon and Derek's whereabouts. Benny admits he does not know where they live, but under pressure, he agrees to call Leon. Jack takes the phone and speaks directly with Leon. He threatens him, declaring that he will take revenge on Leon, Bastion, and everyone involved in his wife's death. Recognizing the voice, Leon realizes Jack is alive. Instead of fear, he responds with his own threat, vowing to kill Jack before any revenge is carried out. The call ends. Jack releases Benny, telling him to leave before he changes his mind. Benny runs away in panic, but before he gets far, a bullet from Charles, waiting in the shadows, brings him down. An hour later, Charles reports to Bastion that Leon and Derek are heading to Jack's house after his release. Alarmed, Bastion orders him to intervene, stressing that Jack must be captured alive. But the command comes too late, as Leon and Derek have already arrived at Jack's home. A fierce battle erupts. Gunfire fills the air. Drawing on his skills and training, Jack kills Derek and leaves Leon badly wounded. At the last moment, Charles arrives and drags Leon away, trying to save him. Moments later, the sheriff and his partner arrive after hearing the shots. Jack explains that he cannot be punished since the fight happened inside his home. He insists Derek's death was self-defense. The sheriff accepts the explanation but warns that Bastion will strike back. Jack shows no fear, saying it is better if the enemy comes to him, because then he can fight without worrying about the law. Meanwhile, Leon is rushed to a doctor and falls into a coma. Bastion is furious when he hears the news. Enraged by the attack on his son, he vows to destroy Jack at any cost. At the same time, Jack begins fortifying his home. He lays smoke grenades in the yard, hides homemade bombs at key points, and stashes rifles in corners of the house. Every trap is arranged carefully to avoid detection. Jack knows that without these preparations, facing Bastion and his men alone would be impossible. Elsewhere, Bastion is confronted by his youngest child, Molly. She asks if he truly intends to attack Jack. Bastion confirms it, saying Leon lies in a coma because of Jack. Molly pleads with him to stop, insisting that revenge will not heal anything. But Bastion refuses. He declares that nothing, not even Molly, will change his decision. Since childhood, Molly has despised her father's life as a mafia boss. She still remembers losing her mother in one of his violent conflicts. Deep inside she wants to resist him, but once again she remains silent, hiding her pain. Back at Jack's house, Earl arrives with food. Jack tries to refuse, but Earl insists, reminding him he has not eaten since yesterday. Jack finally accepts. Before leaving, he warns Earl to stay inside that night, because a battle is coming. As night falls, Jack calls Joe to thank him, admitting he may have to face Bastion and his men that very night and might not survive. Joe falls silent, then promises to come help. Soon after, Bastion's first wave of soldiers arrives at Jack's house. They launch an assault, but Jack is ready. His traps take down many attackers right away, and the battle erupts in the front yard. Amid the chaos, Earl calls the sheriff. The sheriff and his partner rush to the scene. At the same time, Charles reports to Bastion that they have suffered heavy losses and need reinforcements. Hearing this, Bastion decides to deploy all his remaining men and lead the assault himself. When the sheriff arrives, he prepares to join the fight. Earl tries to help Jack but is shot before he can advance. The sheriff drags him to safety, then charges into the house to engage Bastion's men in a gunfight. Elsewhere on the battlefield, Charles faces Jack directly. The fight is brutal, and Jack is nearly forced to surrender. At the last moment, the sheriff arrives and points his weapon at Charles. Another clash follows. The sheriff is wounded but continues to fight. In the end, Charles is killed when a grenade explodes in his own hand. After the fight, the sheriff plans to return to his office. He urges Jack to leave with him, but Jack refuses, convinced the battle is far from over. Soon after, the sheriff's partner brings word from Molly that Bastian and his forces are on the way. The situation becomes clear when Joe arrives with extra weapons to support Jack. Seeing the shift, the sheriff abandons his plan to leave and stays to prepare with Jack and Joe for the final assault. Bastian's forces soon arrive. The sheriff warns Bastian to retreat or face arrest, but Bastian ignores him and opens fire. The sheriff is shot, and chaos breaks out as Bastian orders his men to storm the house. Under heavy attack, Jack realizes their defenses will not hold. He tells Joe to save the wounded sheriff while he prepares a final move, destroying the house. Joe reluctantly obeys, throws a smoke bomb to cover their escape, and drags the sheriff away. Meanwhile, Jack moves upstairs, lies inside a bathtub, and covers himself with a protective coat. Moments later, a massive explosion rips through the house, reducing it to rubble. After the blast, Bastian assumes Jack is dead and retreats to his mansion. But the next morning, Molly discovers Leon has died. Jack appears and tells her to leave, revealing that Leon was killed by his hand. Furious, Bastian shoots Jack, leaving him mortally wounded. Molly pleads with her father to stop the violence, but Bastian refuses. At last, Molly takes action and ends her father's life. Jack, too, succumbs to his wounds. The story closes at the funeral. Joe and his wife pay their respects as Jack is remembered as a man who fought for justice until his final breath. The end. So the moral of the story is, if a mafia boss really wants your house, maybe just sell it and move to an apartment.